No, it doesn't matter. If the show's funny, the show's funny. If you capture the comedy, if you've directed the comedy, it's there. And my job is to preserve that comedy, and hopefully I can enhance it once in a while, you know. Sometimes I make a different joke that than was there. I used to do that on Will and Grace because we were way, way, way long. And I have to shorten things and accidentally create a whole new joke or a cutaway, cut back. You know, I'd leave a scene early, come back to another scene. I did a lot of that in mid-century modern too, but I didn't create any new jokes. But we left scenes, cut them up more than they were intended. This particular episode was interesting because there was a there's a death that happens because our wonderful actress passed away, and Linda Lavin, and that was quite impactful to the show.
Oh, she hid the Newtons again?
Yep. Do you know where
Well,
they...
fine, you got it out of me. She hid them in the salad spinner. It was our little secret, you know, just the two of us.
What are we storing? We don't even cook! Ah! If you found this, tell Jerry he's weak. Cute, but weak.
Aw, she gets me.
Well, what's my spiel? I have to say, hi, I'm James Burrows. Welcome to The Process. I'm going to talk to my editor, Peter Chakos, about this episode, Here's to You, Mrs. Schneiderman, which was, I think, the 9th episode of Mid-Century Modern, a show we did for Hulu that premiered in March. Again, I'm saying we've known each other so long that there is this implicit trust that we have. I know that he will respect my work and I will respect his work. And because Peter is a musician, and musicians make great editors, because editing a show is rhythm. It's all about rhythm. And, you know, Peter, his editing skill far exceeds his musician skill. But he...
That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. I've heard your band. So, Peter, what's it like for you when I give you all this raw footage?
The way you approach comedy and shooting a comedy is the way I prefer it, because we do everything in front of a live audience. And I don't know, people probably don't know, but you create a very loose and immediate kind of directing where the actors have a little more freedom. You don't throw down marks, and they can move around a little bit more, and the cameramen have to be on their game. And you know, part of my job on the shoot night is to make sure, along with our camera coordinator Russ Sherman, we make sure that they get there, and then we all talk in between takes. So did you see any problems? And we fix them. You fix them, and you get your pickups on the fly, and it makes the process fast. And you know, we get through a 30-minute show in 3.5, 4 hours, and then you know, it's my job to establish the pace and then get that show down to an airable time. But you know, your way of directing focuses on the comedy, not on getting every possible angle, which is just anti-comedy, in my opinion. Shooting pickup after pickup after pickup and just wearing the cast down is so counter to the process. But that's how most shows shoot nowadays. And I can tell instantly when I watch them, oh, there's no audience there. So, I mean, our shows, that's a live audience. It's real, and we get a lot of shit for it. But, you know, everybody's always complaining about the canned laughter, but we don't have canned laughter. If anything, I shorten laughs.
iceberg lettuce. In all caps.
How about the second to last one?
Fuck that mailman and his fucking Hitler mustache.
Working with Jim, I mean, when I started as a PA on Cheers, and grew up watching him and thought that's how everybody did it, and it's not how everybody does it. He's got a way of enhancing the comedy and gives you stuff to work with, and it's a pleasure, always a pleasure to do it. And this show is so damn funny, and the writing, it all starts with the writing. I mean, that's my take on the whole process. And like I say, my job is to pace it and pick what I think are the funniest takes. We do alternate jokes. I choose what I like, and then I discuss that with the showrunners, and we go from there.
Yeah, it is a. I call the way I shoot is newsreeling, because I will, during a scene, I'll make up a shot, and I'll tell the cam. I literally have pushed cameras into position. I do that, and what I mean by newsreeling is getting it on the fly. Because if you say if you figure out you want a shot and you say cut, and then you have to reslate and say action again, it's an added 5 to 7 minutes. Because the minute you say cut, makeup and hair are all over the actors, and it's just a whole. And costumers, they're pressing because the creases don't match. So I try to do everything on the fly. And if you notice in the show and what Peter works with, a lot of the shots don't match in size. They just don't. But that, I guess that's a crime in one camera, but in 3 camera or 4 camera, which I use, it's not, because you're catching the joke the best way you can the first time it's said in front of the audience.
Yes, and nowadays, we shoot at such a high resolution that I actually fix a lot of those shots. I blow them up, try to get them to match a little better. But that's just for me, for my taste, because it looks prettier. I like it to look as pretty as it can. We stabilize shots because the guys are moving, and when you kick the camera, you see the kick. So, but
if you watch some of my earlier work on Taxi or Cheers, we had no video assist, so you didn't know what the cameramen were getting. You set it up. I blocked it. I told them what I needed, but that didn't necessarily imply that they were going to get that shot. They're reading notes, and so there are some ugly shots on those shows, and one in the final scene of the first season of Cheers, just before Sam and Diane kiss. There's a shot of Teddy that's a master, and all of a sudden the guy it's Shelley and Teddy, and all of a sudden I think the assistant cameraman realized, oh shit, this is a close-up. So there's this big zoom into Ted on the that's in the show. It didn't impact the show. I think we lasted 11 seasons on that show. So it's a lot different now because we have video assist and we can see where shots are missed and go back and get it. But back in the early days, it was crazy.
Yeah, and I see those when I watch. It's like I watch even the old Cheers, but it didn't impact it. But the audiences now, I think everybody's a little more sophisticated, and they just notice everything because we've let them in to see how the process is. People 8 years old talk about green screen, so it's like they know more about the shots than I do. It's crazy that it's come to that, but no, it doesn't matter. If the show's funny, the show's funny. If you capture the comedy, if you've directed the comedy, it's there. And my job is to preserve that comedy, and hopefully I can enhance it once in a while, with sometimes I make a different joke than was there. I used to do that on Will and Grace because we were way, way, way long. and I have to shorten things and accidentally create a whole new joke. That actually worked funny, or a cutaway, cut back. I'd leave the scene early, come back to another scene. I did a lot of that in mid-century modern too, but I didn't create any new jokes. But we left scenes, cut them up more than they were intended. But
Right.
this particular episode was interesting because there was there's a death that happens because our wonderful actress passed away, and Linda Lavin, and that was quite impactful to the show, and dealing with it in a way that was both respectful, sweet, emotional, and also funny was difficult. So, the show starts out with that moment you showed with the Tupperware pulling all the containers out of there, and the prop guy feeding more and more and more through. And then I did a couple of cutaways to make it even longer. But that's a big joke. That's a funny joke. But as this episode goes on, it gets pretty serious, and the pace of the show changes in places because of that. Moments sometimes are opened up to let them land more, and other moments are pulled up to get us back into some comedy. But again, the writing was so crucial to how do you deal with this. And for me, it's the second time I had to deal with this because we lost an actress on The Big Bang Theory as well, and we had to, and the character died as well. And those episodes are tough, but I think we did a good job. The scene on the couch.
I pulled up to the club. She was standing right there. And when she got in the car, she said, "I'm not feeling so good." But she looked okay. I mean, maybe a little pale. And I said, "Don't worry. I'll take you home. You'll lie down. I'll get you a tea. You'll be fine." And then she said, "Okay." But when I got to the first light, she said, "Bunny, I think maybe you should take me to the hospital."
For an editor, cutting 3 people on a couch, those are the hardest scenes because they're all overs. Even if they're a single, they're dirty, and to make those work, to me that's always been the hardest thing. When they're across the room, no problem. You can do anything you want. But yeah, that was a hard episode for all of us.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to admit most of my singles are dirty. That's just
Yeah,
the way it is. Because if I go too close on a single,
yeah,
it's not as funny because elbows are
yeah.
funny.
Nobody wants that.
No,
Right.
so it's
Right.
so so you have to deal with that. I mean, there are a couple of scenes where characters flips sides of the cut because I have an over and an over, and one actor is jumping, but it's still people at home go, hey, Pa, did you see that? An actor jumped across across the cuts, and you don't. They listen. They listen. They're not too worried about 30 singles or anything like that. As long as
Right.
as long as the story's there and the comedy works.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't worry about those things. Most things you can fix nowadays, or if an edit is particularly tough because somebody's hand is moving into the frame, I can take that out now. We couldn't do that back in the old days. The hand just moved through, and you cut to the actor, and his hand's in a different position. But now we can help a lot of that. So hopefully the shows look great, and everybody thinks they're well paced and funny, and then I've done my job. And we're both nominated for the same episode. I think that episode was a little dear to all of us.
I know, and it's a shame that we're the only creative talent that's nominated for that episode.
I agree.
It's a shame. It's sad. When I heard about it, I couldn't believe I was nominated. But then I expected, like Nathan to be nominated because he's so fucking good. And,
As did I.
my God, he's,
He is.
the speech he makes about how Linda died is extraordinary. And the poignancy
Yep.
of the scene where he's writing the eulogy and the last scene
Yep.
after the wedding. And, you and I are representing the creative nature of that show. The writers didn't get nominated. The show wasn't nominated. For some reason, you and I, it was a sad moment for me.
Yeah, I understand. I was hoping the show, and certainly hoping Nathan and the writers. I mean, it's such a great episode.
I know.
The eulogy scene is so good. That's the one that rides that line between the sadness, the emotional part, and the comedy being fit in such a great way.
How do you encapsulate in words the essence of an angel? For a brief, all too brief time, one walked among us. She embraced life with open arms. Never a complaint, never an unkind word. A woman without judgment, without criticism. A heart that only knew love and light.
It's really nice. Sybil was an amazing woman.
She was. But who this?
The live audience, for me, it tells you if a joke works. That's good for the writers. That's good for the director to know, and we change it if something isn't there. Sometimes you don't change it because not all jokes have to be home runs. But the audience gives you an immediate reaction. I take the rewrite jokes a little bit with a grain of salt because the audience is now surprised beyond being just normally surprised by the joke. They're now surprised by a different joke being there, which they don't expect in the second take. So sometimes that laugh is bigger, but I still prefer the original joke because maybe it was smarter. So that the audience doesn't affect me that much, but I do follow their rhythm, and I use that rhythm to keep the show in a groove.
I agree. I think the audience is good especially good for the writers, because if they don't laugh at a joke, they can change the joke. And they do, sometimes 2, 3 times till we get the right joke. If you're doing a single camera show, you just have to have the 3 or 4 writers who are watching. If they think it's funny, then the joke goes. But we have to, we're subjected to 350 people saying whether the joke is funny or not. So it's a little more difficult, more difficult for the writers on multicams to, their jokes have to be harder.
Yeah, they have to be harder, and there has to be more. The single camera comedies, with the exception of a few, are not that funny. I don't want to name names, but I mean they're generally less funny. There's fewer jokes. They're more melancholy, and there's not a lot of hard jokes, with the exception of a few classics that we all know. But a sitcom has to have 2 or 3 jokes a page.
Well, I guess it's changed now because you can do in streaming, you can do 30-minute sitcoms. But back when, we were doing Will and Grace, it was 22 minutes or 21 minutes and change. So you had to have more jokes per page because you couldn't go a couple of pages without a joke because that would upset the rhythm. Whereas when we were doing Cheers, we could do Sam and Diane scenes that didn't have a joke for 2 pages. And then all of a sudden, you need a killer joke at the end of the second page. But
Right.
because we had more time.
Yeah, we had almost 23 minutes of show, not counting the main title and credits. We were like 24 and change, I think, on Cheers. But yeah, now I'm, we have a looser limitation now as time goes. I think we're 22 to 26 minutes. So we have some play in there, but you want the best show. And for me, sometimes shorter is better. Get in, make them laugh, make them want more. Get out. That's my theory.
Thank you, Mr. Chakos. Always a pleasure to work with you, even though I have to beg sometimes to get you to do something. Our conversation was delightful, and in the spirit of this conversation, I would like somebody to cut.